So,
Hey, everybody.
mm.
All right.
And someone you might know, XF Katie. I don't know who XF Katie is.
I think that may be my old friend Katie Otto,
Oh, okay, great. And Kid
old
says hello.
bandmate and roommate and friend.
Right. So we're friends from way back in terms of we worked together and then we hung out together. And when I used to live in Washington, D.C. Oh, your birthday's coming up soon. Shall we all
Sunday.
wish Drew? Shall we all wish Drew a happy birthday?
Well,
Drew's
thank you.
He's very incognito right now. You've got you. It looks like you're outside.
I am. I'm on my front porch. Leo,
Oh, nice.
my son, who's 4, I think he had a nap at daycare today, so he's still a little bit wired. So
Oh,
Renee's
okay.
inside trying to get him down to sleep.
Does Leo kind of spin out before going to bed? Like tries to wear himself out?
We try to wear him out, that's for sure.
Okay.
If we don't get him down in time, his second wind kicks in, and then he'll
Uh-huh.
just go, and we'll just be kind of bouncing off the walls. And he's very into like dance parties right before bed.
Oh,
And
fun. All right.
right now, his 2 favorite songs to dance to, one of them is Africa, by
Uh-huh.
Toto, and the other
Okay.
one, the other one is Orinoco Flow by Enya. So I
Enya,
don't know
wait.
why.
Oh, I don't know about it. Enya has a dance song? I always figured,
No,
no, he just dances to them.
he
He
just
just
dances to
dances to
them.
them.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so great.
very. I mean, he's really got a couple different moves that he's working on.
All right.
Uh, yeah, he was teaching a few of them to me tonight,
Oh,
because
nice.
I had to perform for his panda bears. It was a competition apparently, and I
Okay.
lost. I lost to
Oh,
the panda bears.
now who was the judge? Who was the judge of that competition?
A little glow in the dark man.
So cool. That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, great. Fun to hear stories about him. The last time I saw him, I don't even think, have I seen him? I know he was going to bed, but he was a tiny one when I saw him
Yeah,
last.
when you stayed with me, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's pretty big now. I mean, he just turned 4 back in May.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, is just a normal kid with lots of emotions, and is loving life and wants to live.
Yeah. That's great. That must be nice to be around.
Yeah, it really is actually. It really is.
Yeah. I know this is a completely different thing. It's always funny, like when people are talking about their kids and then like I bring up a pet, like I know it's different. But that all said, during the pandemic, we got a cat, and I've
Hmm.
talked about it on here myself before. And it was like a kitten. It was dropped off. It was like 1 day old, and the
Yeah.
mother dropped it off on our patio. It still had its umbilical cord on him and everything.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and it kind of fell off in a couple of
Leo
days.
came with one as well.
Really? Did it fall
Yeah,
off him in a
it
couple
fell
of
off.
days?
Yeah, we saved it. We saved it.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's
Some
like in
people,
a little bag. I don't know what we're gonna do with it. Like
there's
dry it
ritual,
out and throw it in some stew or something.
there's, oh yeah, like, or put it on as a face cream for
Yeah,
rejuvenation. Nice.
exactly.
There's I think there's a tribal tradition where you bury it under a tree and then then at the end of your life, your umbilical cord kind of meets you. You meet your umbilical cord at the
Oh,
end.
oh, that's
But
interesting.
yeah, but I can't remember what tribe. I hope I didn't make it up, but I can't remember what tribe it was. I did a cultural anthropology class as an undergraduate, and I just remember
Hmm.
that was something.
That's interesting.
But yeah. So well, let's continue our chat with some doodling.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, Kid, I had no idea, but Kid did save our cat's
Kitties.
umbilical cord.
All right.
Yeah, hopefully it's not like something that accidentally like slipped into the food or something.
Yeah.
It's seasoning. Anyway,
Right.
So just to let people know who are new, Doodle with me is 30 minutes of doodling, and that just means that you can draw along with us as we talk and chat. Doodling is not about creating artwork, it's about just kind of making marks, and there's no pressure to do anything here except just relax and have a good time. So that said, we're going to switch over to our tablets and
Wait, tablets? I'm,
our artwork. Don't you have your tablet with you?
all right.
Oh, we haven't talked about how we know each other. We know each other through the Hirshhorn Museum, where you were still
Hmm.
working. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this took. All right. I'm going to take out my headset.
Yeah. All right. So I think I've got this set up okay. It's
All right.
very
Cool.
precarious situation I've got going here. So say something if
Okay. We
it
had
gets
a
out of sorts.
we had a guest before who set it up on some panes of glass or something, and the glass shattered during it. It was really dramatic.
Was there blood? Did they get cut?
I don't know. There was no blood, thank God. But now, do you ever doodle at work? I mean, what do you do at meetings? Because I did a lot of doodling on the phone. Or
To be honest, I have learned when to tune out of meetings. And when I tune out of like
no,
certain
I
parts.
remember that about you. I remember.
No, I mean, you remember the meetings, we go sort of, topic by topic, and
Right.
I'm in audio visual and all the technology. And so when we get through that stuff and they're talking about hanging paintings on the wall or, the scheduling issues with registration or anything like that, that's when I kind of know when to tune out. And I don't really
Right.
doodle. I've never been a doodler. But
Hmm.
I've always the interesting thing is, I mean, I used to work for myself for, as in a gig economy, so as
Yeah.
a recording engineer and producer, and
Right.
almost everybody that I worked with that was a studio owner or was sort of my direct boss has always been a doodler, and I
Oh,
remember
interesting.
the types of doodles that they would do.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know why it's always sort of stuck with me. Just it was always sort of interesting, but I've never been one to just sit down and doodle myself. I haven't taken any sort of drawing class ever, or I mean, I think my last art class was freshman year in high school probably, and that wasn't even
Right.
drawing. That was just some other weird stuff that our art teacher had going on. So I'm kind
I
of
would love,
yeah.
you're just reminding me, I would love to talk about what kind of assignments were being done in high school art class. That would be interesting. I'm just remember they're usually not really
Right.
drawing. They're
I
more,
mean,
yeah, they're like busy work. But you were saying something, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
my yeah, just I'm not much of a doodler, so I'm kind of interested to see just sort of maybe what comes out of me because nobody's ever asked me to just sit down and doodle before.
Mm,
And
mm.
so I'm gonna try to tune out from what I'm actually drawing or doing, and maybe it's just gonna um be an exercise or a adventure in what my hand wants to do.
That's all it really is. That's
Okay.
all it is. Your hand. There's certain from there's. I mean, I have found. I think everyone does it differently. Some people really prefer like, kind of shooting lines across the page.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like to overlap things. Some people are, just interested in like um, working off of the sides of the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Putting down thoughts or words. It's all kinds of things. Hey, Nancy. Um, it's all kinds of things, and I'm kind of one of these people. It's a little obsessive, but I I'm an iterative person, so I just draw shapes, the same shapes over and over, and then they kind of just start to pile up on each other. And
That's So I years ago I worked for this recording company, a mobile recording company called Big Mo, as one of the engineers, and we would travel around the country and record different music festivals and different artists in different locations and churches. And I worked with a lot of artists, but my boss at that place would draw the same thing over and over again and made it all sort of connect. And I mean, he would go through, a package of like the Bic pens once every 2 weeks because
Wow.
there was just so much ink all over the page. And in a weird way, it looked like um, kind of like transistors or like electrical circuits,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so which has a lot to do with what we were doing with engineering. And so I think it was just, constantly in his head, and it was just coming out of his pen.
It is really an interesting thing because I do think it it's like a signature in a little bit, in that it kind of.
Right.
And I don't like to talk too much about doodling, and I'm
Yeah.
only because I don't want people to get self-conscious about it. But
Yeah.
it's more, or feel like they have to make it into something that you know
Yeah.
that it isn't.
Yeah.
And all of it. I mean, I'm not really worried about others. I think it's for me really, because I am
Hmm.
really, when it comes to making my art, I think about it a lot in the studio. So one of the things about doodling that's been freeing for me is to just go a lot faster, not have to think about it, and just kind of make the
Hmm.
mark as they come. But there's
Right.
like, but that yeah, that idea that it's like a signature is interesting.
Yeah.
It has a certain look, and it even has to do with what you're using. You use a pencil, you might make a mark differently. I'm a
Hmm.
fan of the ball. I'm a fan of a ballpoint pen right now because they're super. I think the ink is a little greasy, so it's
Yeah.
slippery,
Yeah.
and I like the way that feels. And then, or a pencil can be kind of scratchy, like And for me, it's the materials are so interesting because it's like I went out and bought a nice pen, like with
Hmm.
like a nub with like, what is it called? A nib, a nub. It
Hmm.
has a point. It has a point to it. I can't remember what it's called right now, because I thought I thought, oh well, I'm making doodles. Why don't I use a nicer pen to do it? And I just
Right.
don't. I don't like it. I like the cheaper stuff because I don't have
Hmm.
to worry about it being precious. So
Right. Right.
everyone's different, I imagine, but yeah, I've definitely noticed just from people who join in that um, you know there's all kinds of marks. People leave spaces around, in different sorts of
Yeah.
ways, and it's like
Hmm.
it's kind of like how you organize. I think it's kind of organizational for me. You know,
Ah. Like,
like
do you
how
see
I'm.
that you see the connection between maybe how you organize your life, or you organize your boundaries in certain areas of your life?
Maybe, I don't know. It could be. It could be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if there's a doodle analyzer out there, they can certainly
That would
please
be cool.
please. Well, my dad's on the call, and I remember he used to have a handwriting analysis book that I would look at. So
Hmm.
maybe my dad could weigh in if he wants. But my parents are pretty dedicated to doodling, so I don't want to disturb them, their flow, by
Hmm.
having them answer questions. Um, but we were also talking a little bit about like the gig economy. I'm kind of in the gig economy now, but I wanted
Hmm.
to hear a little bit about kind of how I'm very curious too about how you got into kind of the technology part of art.
Yeah. Um, so I stumbled into it from at least in a traditional sort of art museum in an art museum way. I've been playing music since I was in high school, um, and been playing in bands and things like that. And when I graduated from high school, I knew that I wasn't ready for college or anything like that. I knew that I would just end up wasting a bunch of money and probably drop out, and that I just I figured I
Really?
wouldn't, yeah, I
Huh.
wouldn't put myself in that situation. So I did all the things that I thought I would do while in college, which was partying, just without having to go to class or or anything. So I hung out with my friends, Katie being one of them, and played in bands and partied around College Park, Maryland for a while, and eventually went on tour with the band and stuff like that. And eventually I was like, okay, it's time to figure out what you want to do. And there was nothing that really jumped out as like I should, I want to be this, I want to be that. And so I just looked at what I had naturally gravitated to without
Right.
forcing myself, and it was music. And I knew I wasn't good enough as a musician to um, make it. And the odds of actually being able to have a career as a musician are pretty low, and it's a hard thing to do to really. It's hard on relationships, it's hard
Huh.
financially. It's really difficult. But I thought that I wanted to be involved somehow because I really liked the creative aspect of, even from the engineering side and producing side, getting to work with all of these creatives and be able to bounce ideas off of them and see what they're doing, and maybe if I can throw a different lens on it, or um, have the opportunity to be creative in that light, that it could pay the bills, and it's fun and it's a real job. And um, beyond working in studios with musicians and bands, there's work outside of that. If much more boring work if you want to work in TV or radio and do post production for that. But anyway, so I got into the technology with the background in audio because I eventually went to school for audio engineering,
Uh-huh.
and that's where I learned the basics of sort of digital technology, and how devices talk to each other.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and how to sort of spot errors and do things the right way, and know when to specifically do things the wrong way for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and maybe I'm being too long-winded with this, but
Not at
so
all.
I did, I, I, I did that, and eventually and it was great. And eventually the industry just started changing because the technology was changing, and it became a lot more accessible to people in bands, and they weren't coming into the recording studio as much. Of course, the
Yeah.
big bands still were, but a lot of the work, at least in DC, were just people that were doing this as a hobby or just kind of starting their thing up, and they didn't have any money for it, so they're saving and saving to be able to make it into the studio for a couple of days. And when Pro Tools came out and people could have a recording solution at home on their computer, uh, the industry got really difficult to do well in around here. I think it
Ah.
I think it did a lot for the creativity of the artists in the area because they had access to be able to put down their ideas and work through things. Um, so I ended up having to sort of branch out, and a lot of the studios were doing this as well. They started working in video because it was like, oh, you wrote a song, we recorded it. What about a music video?
Right.
So that's where I learned video production
Ah.
in another studio. And all of this is for, recording music videos, and coming up with concepts and working with bands, but then also doing live video broadcasts. It gave me a pretty diverse platform that I could sort of that I was working in, that I think just
Yeah.
kept me open to understanding technology in different ways, and where technology and creativity can meet.
You, you,
Um,
I have a question, which is
yeah.
that, so do you kind of approach technology like in a problem solving kind of way? Like you love to solve a problem and you're going to go at it until you solve it? Or do you see, and I'm not, it doesn't have to be either or, but you were
Hmm.
talking earlier about technology as being kind of like a language that where different parts of the machines talk to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, is it more about understanding the language. Like, are you learning a new language when you're working with new technology, or are you more into the problem solving aspect? And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
I don't
would
know if
say
they're, I don't know if they're
I would say,
different from each other. Yeah.
well, I would say I'm much more, I have a lot more fun in the problem solving
Uh-huh.
area. Um, because the one thing that you can really count on is that something is going to go wrong. And being able to come out of that with a solution um, is what kind of keeps you working.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, it keeps you working because and it changes the way that you approach things. Like when I'm at work right now and an idea sort of gets floated, my first thought is, what is the easiest way to do this that's going to reach the desired effect? And a lot of times I'm thinking outside of technology. What can we do that doesn't have to involve technology?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then when I can't sort of solve that, then I try to bring in pieces of technology to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do
yeah. So
you?
does that
Yeah,
answer your
yeah,
question?
yeah. I'm because some of my artwork is inspired by technology, and I've gotten into
Hmm.
science fiction more lately. So I
Yeah.
have these. I think it's coming out of, watching too much, 90s, early 2000s sci-fi. I just watched
Hmm.
Fast and Furious Part 2 today, and even in that, like, is all about like the cars and how um, amazing the cars are. And there was a scene where
Hmm.
um, I think Charlize Theron was the villainess. She was like the Aryan white
Hmm.
lady, wants to take over the world kind of thing.
Hmm.
Actually, her reasons for taking over the world were very interesting. But anyway, in the long run, they were able to take smart cars and remotely control them. So in a New York intersection, this isn't really happening, by the way, folks. This is
Not
me.
yet.
Yeah, not yet. But basically, they were able to hack into the the systems in smart cars and make them crash into each other to create a diversion so that they could uh, um, grab the nuclear codes from a Russian diplomat.
Hmm.
So that could easily happen in DC. We have to be careful.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But
No,
they were
everybody
making
should.
like,
You need a VPN, everybody.
no, wait, oh yeah, wait, one more time. What's a VPN? Because
Well, it's a it's
vis-
a it stands
visible
for
panty,
virtual.
visible
I think it's
panty.
virtual private network.
Okay,
It's your
virtual
private. It's
private
your
net.
private
Okay.
network. Yeah.
And
But what
that
it
makes it
does is
okay.
it kind of like hides your IP address, right? So you could. I'll give you why I use a VPN. One of the reasons, which is kind of a naughty reason, I watch soccer, and some of the matches are only shown on the internet in different countries. So I can turn on my VPN and say I want to connect to Croatia, and my IP address will show that I'm in Croatia, which will allow me to log on and actually watch the soccer channel. Now,
Yeah.
when hackers or things like that, or people that are looking to get into people's personal computer, they're targeting people that are in the United States, for example. So your IP address won't really come up, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to gain access to
I
you.
see.
It's kind of one of those things where it's like it is. I think one of the analogies is, you could live in a perfectly safe neighborhood, but you should still lock your door when you go to bed at night or when you leave your house. The VPN
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like just locking your door. It makes it more
Mm-hmm.
difficult for somebody to gain access. Now, if somebody wants to, they can and they will if they're good, but it's a deterrent.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, one time I got a call that a student loan was due, and I basically said, well,
Hmm.
I don't know why I don't have any student loans anymore. I'm an old man now, and I don't have student loans. And someone
Yeah.
says, well, I don't know, did you go to beauty school in Virginia? And I was like, no, I don't remember doing that. And it actually kind
Hmm.
of like was getting into our taxes and everything. I
Oh my
guess
gosh.
I mean, I do not recall, but I guess someone was able to use our identity. And like right now, there's a guy named Sean Rice. If you're out there, by the way, Sean, I know who you are, and you're using my phone number to be
Oh
able
my
to
gosh.
register onto real estate sites. So I don't, and it's happened over the last month, no, 2 months really. This guy just keeps using my phone number to register onto real estate in Florida. So Virginia and Florida, I've got my eye on you.
Maybe, maybe he's planning your retirement. And he wants to buy you a house.
You know what? I love that. At least someone's doing it. Someone is doing it.
Somebody's got to. Somebody's got to, Ryan.
Someone's got to do it. But no, it's an interesting thing because like these are problems I don't remember having when I was younger,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and the vulnerability is almost like a physical vulnerability now with technology where you're like,
Right.
it's even though you don't think of it as part of your identity, it is kind of your identity.
Oh,
And
yeah.
people can assume to do that. And I don't want to get all paranoid about it, but in the long run, it's it's a funny thing because it's made me think that there are Ryans out in the in the cloud, in the virtual world, that are doing all kinds of things that I don't know about.
Hmm. Yeah.
Whether they're really me or not,
Right.
they could be me too. I don't know, but
Right.
yeah.
Um, I'm just trying to where, and we went off on a tangent,
Oh, how
but
unusual! How unusual!
I'm not trying to get us back to focus, but
No, I'm just
I,
joking.
yeah, and I wanted to finish
Oh, okay.
about, I just wanted to finish about how I came across you, or you came
Oh,
across me.
okay.
Um,
Right. Well,
yeah, and sorry to, take it back, but
no, not at all.
because you asked about where, how the technology and art and how that sort of works for me and how I got into it.
Right.
You were the one that sort of invited me in, and I was very lucky that a lot of the tools that I picked up along the way working in music and video translated directly into my role at the museum now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's one of those things where I think that to be successful at my position in any museum is you kind of have to be jack of all trades, master of none,
Right.
and have a
And
very diverse skill set.
and
But you
the
don't have to be a master of any of them.
you
You
just, it
just have
has
to
to be
know.
serviceable. Yeah.
You have to know enough to make a plan, that and
Right.
know how to bring it from beginning to the end. You don't have to be the one that does every single thing along the way, but you need to know the steps that it takes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and or that there's a logic there. Like I kind of
Right.
believe that technology, we just learn different kinds of logics that allow us to use the
Hmm.
tools, right? Like that was a big thing
Exactly.
for me was once I understood that it's a logic, which is not my strong set, but once I started to learn that there was a logic to it, then I could be more patient with it. I think
Hmm.
ran that technology space without really knowing a whole lot about technology. So, uh,
Well,
when you came in though, when you came into
yeah.
that space, you basically were able to tell me that someone I had hired didn't know what they were doing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what was but you know what was great? You know what was great is I was very fortunate for a lot of reasons, in where I landed with the Hirshhorn and with you, and you not
Sure.
necessarily knowing the technology was fine in your position because
Yeah.
you allowed us to
Yeah.
know the technology, but opened, some doors for us in creativity and understanding, um, how to explore and how to play and how to have fun, which
Yeah.
is a position that is a good place to be in when you can not just learn a new skill set of like how to connect these two devices or how to do something in Photoshop or how to crop an image, but when you start learning how to play and you apply that to different areas that you're working in the technology, um,
That, yeah,
it really helps.
that's like when it becomes creative. That's when it,
Yeah,
because I see a lot of things that often are just really people using templates that are already kind of in the machine as opposed to kind
yeah.
of customizing it to what they
Oh my
know.
gosh.
And you
That's the
basically, yeah. What, go
that
ahead.
drives me crazy when I see, YouTube videos or even commercials on TV, and I recognize the template that they used from Final Cut Pro or Premiere or even the can music that they have that they don't have to pay
Mm,
royalties for. And you're
mm.
like, 50,000 other commercials used the same exact music, and it was just, option number three on, chill party vibe, jingle.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like technology. It's like the things that are built into maybe. I'm not going to do this very well. Anyway, the things that are built into like an app or into
Yeah.
some new technology. It's like living in a small town. It's like there's limits. It doesn't go very
Hmm.
far, and you really have to kind of go out of your small town in order to kind of go, oh, there's other ways to do this that might be more interesting, or I could use this in a way that expresses more
Hmm.
what I would like.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are in schools are really taught to think that way about technology. It's an interesting thing. Like, how do you customize? Like, I was not taught really necessarily like, how do I make life work with me? Like, I thought, oh, I have to
Hmm.
make myself work with life. Like, life was
Right.
basically some kind of template, and I just needed to fit into it. And
Yeah.
then at some point I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to actually find a way to make it work with, you know,
Right.
who I am. So it's a like, I think maybe if people taught technology that way, maybe it would be better for just people's being able to develop themselves as individuals or something. Oh boy, did I go
Possibly.
off? I go possibly, Ryan.
Well, I think the thing is the I think maybe a lot of people are sort of pushed into there being a guaranteed sort of path to success. Uh,
Right.
you go to school, pick a career, find a job, get a kid, get a family, and sort of do that. Um, as like that's just what you're supposed to do. That's how you survive. That's how you make it. And I think that a lot of people
Right.
are really unhappy, and that creativity doesn't really, nothing was really sort of promoted to say that, hey, one viable option is to explore your creativity,
Yeah.
and who knows what's going to happen. Every decision that I've made as far as my career and life sort of decisions, that got me to where I am right now. Well, in my career was pursuing what do I like to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do that, and
Right.
I'm fortunate. I recognize that I'm fortunate, and I got lucky, and I met the right people, and I was nice enough, and they liked me, and it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
That's a
I feel like my path was just as risky as anybody else's that may not have, that did something totally different.
right. Right. Yeah. It's an interesting, yeah, it's an interesting situation, because I think some people have to find like ways to do something they may not necessarily like and find other creative outlets outside of it, and then sometimes you
Yeah.
can do it in your job. Yeah. We are at
Right.
our we are at the end of our session.
Oh.
$100,
Okay.
please. $100,
Oh.
please.
And I just found my glasses. I like looked up in the mirror, sitting on
Oh
top
no.
of. Let's see what I drew.
Yeah, let's see what's going
Oh.
on.
Whoa.
That always happens, though. It goes by. Oh, I'm seeing some pixels. Hey,
You see
Nicole.
that?
Oh, yeah. Almost like hands from what I can see. Like
Oh, wait, here.
little.
Here we go.
It's pixelating a little bit, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
So it might need some more. But it's beautiful as a glitch.
How's that? Is that a little bit better?
Oh, yeah, I can. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. It almost, it's like a face, is what I'm seeing with kind of marks that come up off of its eyebrows. Yeah. Oh, oh, cool. Great.
I don't know what it is. I think it's I started with a snail.
Oh, nice. So it evolved. It evolved in
Yeah,
between.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining me, Drew. It was great talking a little bit, and I know it
This was
goes
a
by
lot of fun.
fast. Yeah, it
It
is.
really did. I probably could have done that for another hour.
Yeah, yeah. I do a kind of thing like I don't want it to be too long because I want people to they can go off and do their own, but I also don't. I don't feel like I feel like people have about 30 minutes of attention in their
Right,
body, you know,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for this kind
All
of
right.
thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
I
just
get it.
me. But I would love to have you come back again. I'm going to do 52 shows, so that'd
That'd be
be.
great. I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I'm up
yeah,
for it.
yeah.
Okay,
Good to see you,
cool.
and
All right. Thanks,
we could
Ryan.
reconnect and say hi to everybody for me.
Yeah,
And
I will. I will.
yeah.
And thanks for everybody that watched
Oh,
and
yeah.
tuned
Thank you
in.
for watching and for joining us. And we couldn't do it without you, so thanks for coming. And next Friday, there'll be a whole new schedule for August. So stay tuned to check out who's coming next month or next week. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Drew. Good to
Yeah.
see
All
you.
right. See you guys. Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye. I'm trying to figure out how to. There we go.